All right, welcome to the Daily Dirt with Dustin Diggs. Exciting podcast for me tonight because I've been wanting to get these guys on for a long time. MCA, St. Louis, Lou, and James are here. Look, we got sound effects too.
Hey.
So
the crowd's going nuts right now.
Crowd's going nuts. Shane Foster, my co-host here.
Hi, everybody.
And
It's
we're
a
just
good-looking crowd, by the way.
Shane, also known as Jamie.
Yes.
As Jamie, yes.
Jamie Jr., they call me.
Jamie Jr. here.
Dee and JJ.
But we had so much fun. Hopefully we didn't ruin our invite to the next MCA, but we had such a great time at the Christmas party.
Please, holiday party. We're politically
the holiday,
correct here.
yes, the holiday party.
Yeah.
So just explain to the audience what the MCA is, because if I did it, I would butcher it.
All right. May I, James?
Oh, after
All
you.
right. We'd like to think that we are the best means of networking and career development in the media business in St. Louis. We've been going for well over 30 years. We started out as the International Television Association.
How many years?
Something over 30.
Over
I've been
30?
involved since the 1980s. Is that possible? I know that many people in the room and in the audience weren't even born yet. But
maybe not our demographic, but still,
yeah,
it's yeah.
So, and then they made a decision 10, 15 years ago to change the name from television to the Media Communications Association to broaden it out because, you know, the interwebs didn't really exist when they first started. And they wanted to broaden the appeal, include web designers and all the other creatives that go into creating media.
So you were in like the 1980s. You started with the MCA.
Yeah,
so,
would you believe?
87, correct?
Okay.
87.
I'll go with that.
So that's what's exciting to me is because like my uncle taught me everything down here, and he worked at Channel 11 for 40 years, and he was back in the 70s and 80s, and it's always fascinating how they used to do things back then. And
I interned at Channel 11.
So
back in the days of Gentry Trotter and other.
So,
wow.
1987, this is when I first got my first camera, and so I brought this in today to kind of show you guys.
Oh, my.
This is my first camera.
What the heck is that?
Wow.
It's a PXL 2000, a Fisher Price camera. It recorded on cassette tapes. So
Wow.
I'm going to break this out here.
Very cool.
It was called Pixel Vision back in the day.
Oh.
Which is probably very apt. It was probably about 8 pixels.
This right here was my first camera. My parents spent like $100 on it back in 1987. So
Wow, that looks.
And it records to a cassette tape.
That looks killer.
And then you play it back, and then so it was all like 8-bit pixel. It was really so. I made my first movies on this thing. So
It's kind of like you were the Goldberg, right? Of the Goldbergs.
Yeah, I think they actually had this camera on the Goldbergs.
Right, I think
so.
so.
Anyways, if you guys want to see it, so do you remember your first camera that you had?
Clunk. First real. Well, I bought a used JVC, and back then, JVC was big in the media, the professional production business, but they tended to end up being crap cameras. You were sorry you had a JVC. Sorry, JVC. I'm sorry. I hope they're not a big advertiser on your network.
There goes our sponsor.
Yeah.
There goes our, shit. So JVC, was it VHS?
It was a 3-tube. Yeah. Well, you know, I guess that's right. My first camera was a single chip. Started off doing more public events and low-grade things before moving up to commercials and so on. So I guess it was single tube before it was a single chip. Probably a Panasonic.
Yeah, and so back then they had Beta and they had VHS battling. Now I think more in the broadcasting recording they kept Beta around for a while.
Well, Beta was created based on shrinking 3/4 inch, which was a commercial production media, and 3/4 inch lived on for a while. It held a whole lot more data. I don't remember the specs on it, but Beta was a means of taking the same style of cassette and shrinking it down and making it more consumer friendly. And Sony only made one big mistake with that, and that is that they made the tapes record 1 hour. So JVC took roughly the same stuff and put it in a cassette that recorded 2 hours, and then the battle was on, and that was the big war between the two formats.
Most movies were an hour and a half, 2 hours. So so that's how they.
So Sony slowed theirs down. So JVC slowed theirs down. So Sony slowed theirs down. As you might guess, the pictures were getting, I think the technical term was crappier as they slowed down the speed. But VHS ended up getting to 6 hours, and that everyone thought that was so cool because they could record 6 episodes of their favorite TV show. And ultimately, that's why Sony lost the battle, and that's why Beta, which is a better format, bit the dust.
Wow. And so I remember VHS, Don't worry, we'll get to your age here in a second here.
Oh, I remember VHSs.
But we had a camera, I think, that had like the camera, then it had like a cord, and you wore a backpack. And you had a backpack with all like the batteries and everything on the back.
Yeah, old guard in this business will remember the Sony 4800, the Portapack, which is a portable 3/4 inch recorder that would record on slightly smaller 3/4 inch cassettes. It would only go 20 minutes, and that's what a lot of news crews and such used, with a camera, a 3-tube camera on the shoulder, and the Portapack slung over their other shoulder, and preferably as an external sound person handling that part of the project. So
Right.
It was a lot.
Right. What was your first camera, James?
The one I bought,
The one you bought.
I had consumer cameras for a while. I never got the professional camera.
Was it this?
No, it was not. I know there was one that recorded on VHS, and then I had what was called mini DV, little cassette about this big.
Yes, I had that too. Yeah.
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 It had a little musical tone that played while you opened the tape.
Oh, that's nice.
And then it told you to press it, not shove it, otherwise you'd break it. But really I would say the professional camera, I would say like is my modern, which is still kind of consumer. It's my Sony Alpha 6400. So
I have to ask, did you skip 8mm and high 8?
yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
my first, I think, was Digital 8. It was like the first, I had the first Digital 8 Sony. And then I think the first things I started working on that I got paid were like weddings. What was the first kind of gigs that you guys did when you first started out?
I did a couple of weddings. I remember that.
I think,
There was
no one in the business likes to admit that they started on weddings, but weddings were an amazing training field.
super VHS.
If you could do the ceremony, which is a lockdown camera, and get good audio, which is tough because you can't say, excuse me, Reverend, could you do that part again? I didn't quite pick that up. But then if you can go to the reception and shoot on the fly, if you can handle both of those parts, it's a great training setup for going into the real world of videography.
Weddings are fun too. They're pretty fun.
I don't think they're fun.
I was once led by a groomsman into the bathroom.
Oh,
He said, here, I want to get a little message to them. He just follow me. I'm following him. And he goes into the restroom, stands at a urinal, and keeps talking over his shoulder to the camera, to the bride and groom. And his
Oh,
Wow.
lovely.
Well, I don't like weddings because I had a horrible experience. So when I started out, I filmed my sister's wedding, and I forgot to turn the audio on. And so still to this day, 30 years later, no, it's not 30 years, about 20 years later, I still hear about it at Christmas. So, we like to play the wedding video, but there's no audio. I would always,
just have them come in one day and do the voiceover.
Exactly.
Right. I was thinking about doing that for like a joke, for a wedding gift. Maybe I'll just do the voices.
Total ADR, absolutely. You can put in sound effects and sound steps as they come down the aisle.
Yeah. So, like, what was your first jobs in the video media field?
All right. One of the first hiring gigs I can remember was videotaping a presentation at a school library. Mm-hmm. And there I was with my Panasonic camcorder on the tripod about 30 feet from the speaker using the on-camera mic. And it was so bad. I had a lot to learn.
Right.
But that was the first paying one I can remember. Now, my father was an advertising man. So I had the opportunity to do a lot of still photography. I'd done a lot of still pictures, more in the, at that time, Pentax world before I moved over to the Canon and a little dip into the Nikons. But did a lot of still photography before turning to the moving pictures. And it was a matter of easing in.
So you started in still and then moved into, okay.
Yeah, I was a
That's
still
kind of
photographer going back
Shane,
into school.
Yeah, Shane's kind of in the same boat. Yeah, he's doing a little bit video now, but
Yeah, I'd like to expand my horizons and do a little bit more like on the video side of things.
Well, what makes it complicated is the audio. You don't know. People don't know that. It is harder to get good audio. The cameras will get great pictures now.
Yeah.
They'll fix most of your own idiocies, but getting good audio is, I think that's what separates the professionals.
right.
Yep.
It's all about like laving the individuals and things like that, getting that clean sound. What was your first video gig?
You say
gig.
video gig.
Media
Media.
gig,
I started
yes.
off on radio back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And so this is 1993. I got a news job up in Taylorville, Illinois, and I did the anchoring. And back then they started like with satellite programming, and I think I was like in front of or behind Larry King. I don't know which, but it's really impressive. It sounds like, ooh, Larry King. Well, this is satellite Larry King. It's not like I say, hey, Larry King. This is ABC Networks that used to do the Larry King show. So I was an afternoon anchor, was there for a little bit, and then went to Western Illinois University, where I was a student, but also a radio local DJ. So for 3 years I was doing that. That's part of my background.
Right.
And so when I got my degree from Western, I also dabbled in video production. So when you talked about 3/4 inch tape, yeah, I had to do the whole giant tape. And I remember doing news packages. And the thing is a lot of my background, I didn't really want to do news, even though I had to start off in news. Right. I really wanted to do marketing and advertising. So I got a dual degree at Western, and the other degree was advertising marketing instead of just the broadcasting. So I got a double major. So from there, I just did marketing majority of my life, but then would do radio for my side fun job. And then I did my own freelance business for a while. Mm-hmm. And like right now, I'm doing basically everything in a company that I'm working for in St. Charles, where I'm doing web and social and video production and product photography and everything. So I really love to dabble in all of it. I don't like to just push myself in the corner and say, I just do video. Mainly, I would just tell you I'm a producer more than anything, because I just like to put stuff together and produce.
I noticed, like, applying for jobs in the last 5 years, that they expect you to know everything. Oh, if you know video, you got to know how the web design, and so you have to know it all now. And so you really don't have a choice of, oh, I'm just the video guy over here. I just take photos. You have to know everything. Yeah.
Well, if I can take you back into the Stone Ages for a moment. I'm sorry, James.
Yeah.
In college, the big multimedia meant something different than what it came to be known as. Multimedia meant 16 projector slideshows. And I remember during high school going to a yearbook convention, and in a hotel room they put on this presentation where they would stack 16 slide projectors in 4 columns, and they were computer automated, and they would create animation. And I just thought it was the coolest thing I'd seen. And now it's hard to convey how different that was from what everything had been doing as far as large presentations.
Right.
So I worked on those and came back to St. Louis wanting to find a job in that. And when I realized the biggest production house at the time, which doesn't exist anymore, Merritt's out in Fenton. Yeah, they had a big presentation wing, and Communico was a part of that. Uh-huh. But I realized if I did get a job there, I would be inserting film into plastic slide holders for a year or two, because they were big enough to be that specialized.
Yeah.
And through the years, all the media business has gotten more generalized, and we've all had to have more skills in that.
Right.
So I just started doing freelance stuff and building a business on my own, because that wasn't what I wanted to be doing. I wanted to be a producer, but the better path to that was self-employment. So
when did you make that leap to do self-employment? Because I tried to work for the man. I've worked for the city of, I don't want to say their name, but it didn't work out. I'm just not an office guy. And, you know, sadly, I'm not. But so I always liked the fact of working on my own. But like I remember being in my early 20s that I wasn't taking it seriously as if I would go out there now and do it. So I had a tough time really breaking in the business being in my early 20s. Was it like that for you?
Yeah, I made my family so proud after college. I got my degree and I came back to St. Louis and I worked at a Radio Shack for a while.
Very nice.
Because I thought I'd be making a little money while I was doing a little job hunting. Well, I was making very little money, and I was hardly doing any job hunting. Yeah. But I did start doing side gigs, and in fact, my friend and manager of the store in which I worked and I started a DJ business, and we started doing music at weddings and corporate events and so on. And that appealed to both the ham and the performance side, and also to the technical side, because it was fun to get the speakers and the wires and whatever. And that was part of why I worked at Radio Shack, because I was into the toys. It's part of why I'm still in this business, because it's fun to play with, the modern cool toys.
Right.
And so on.
So you mean to tell me that they don't pay well at Radio Shack? What?
Where's Radio Shack?
Well, yeah, where is it at now?
It's online. I think it still survives.
And they actually, they have a website. There's a company that buys up basically dead brands and squeezes what they can out of them. If you go to the Radio Shack website now, I believe radioshack.com, they will actually lead you to some NFTs and some the Philadelphia Mint and some other odd things.
They're getting into NFTs?
Everybody?
I feel like everybody's getting into NFTs, but nobody really knows what they are.
I didn't know the site was still around. So talk about the days working in radio, being a DJ. Was it tough to, I mean, did you interview people like this, or was it more you just played music for the the small town or
Not really. Most of it was just playing music.
Yeah.
I love the fact, and I'm going to date myself. Today, you know, knowing that grunge is such a big deal for people, and like, ooh, Nirvana and Pearl Jam, and
Right.
people think about that, and that was like the heyday, and that's, I think, the thing that I love the most out of my entire time in radio, just to think that I was playing it for the very first time, and we even had CDs that said, play it, say it, or say it, play it. And stickers on there because we were trying to promote CDs at the time because they were transitioning from vinyl to CDs.
cassette, yeah.
And this is like early 90s, 91, 92.
91, 92, yeah.
But some of the greatest bands at that time, you know, I played for the first time and then got into playing, you know, Green Day for the first time on hit radio when I was at college. And to this day, I'm a huge fan of Green Day. I love all that music. And that's, I think, the most part of it. As far as doing the interviews, I did a little bit of work interviewing comedians back 1998 to 2000 or so.
Any ones that became kind of semi-famous or anything like that?
I can't think of any major names. I mean, I remember interviewing Steve Davis, local Steve Davis, Elvis impersonator. And I do know that there was a guy that was called, I think his name is it Big Ed Johnson? And he's no longer with us anymore. He died.
Well, see, that's what I was going to say. You can say you interviewed him. You can say you interviewed Jackie Mason.
I interviewed Jackie Mason. I interviewed Johnny Carson.
There you go.
I interviewed.
And they said you were great.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a shame they're not here to confirm that anymore, but you know it happened.
David Letterman. Oh, I'm sorry. You're still alive.
Oh, I got
Radio Shack.
I'm sorry, I got caught up on this little tidbit. Ty Lopez, the guy that has a bookshelf in his garage.
Oh, has all those videos on.
Yeah, he bought the brand. He bought the.
Well, he has
Radio
all those
Shack.
because he has a car full of or garage full of cars.
Lamborghinis. Anyways, yeah, if you go to the Radio Shack website, the first thing you see is something about like cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like they're going all in on the crypto thing, apparently.
You know how it works, right? I think this is how it works. They're going to abolish every single bit of dollars that are out there. Yeah. They're going to universalize money. And so when you get in on this thing, and I'm not even in it, I'm not touching it at this moment. Right. But I think I don't know exactly if that's the way it's going, but it looks like that's the way it's going. So that you can balance and go anywhere. There's no difference of exchange of dollars. It's over here in United Kingdom, over in France, in wherever you go. It's going to be the same.
Right. One
level.
Bitcoin here is the same as one Bitcoin in Japan or wherever.
Right.
So Radio Shack is still around. All right.
Yeah, apparently.
Well, they were going to do some Radio Shack kiosks inside Frank's nursery or someplace like that too. So I don't know.
I'm really excited because when Radio Shack went out of business, I got myself a really nice microphone for $80, which would have been $160, but I got it for $80. It's one of those Yetis.
I had some of those. I still have some of those Radio Shack branded cords and mics and things like that.
What was it called? Is it TIAC or Technic or what was the Radio Shack brand? Anybody remember?
I can't remember.
Well,
TEAC?
They had Radio Shack brand stuff too, though.
They did.
Yeah.
And really, am I really blanking out on that? It'll
Technics.
I'll
right?
slap my no Techniques. They didn't. Radio Shack didn't own that unless they bought it. But the Techniques was actually a sub of Panasonic.
Okay,
so back in the day, where did you guys go other than Radio Shack to get your stuff? Because when I was a kid, I had to go to Schiller's, and then this is right before the internet was real popular. Then I would always go to B&H and get it online. But like I always have to go. Schiller's was the number one place to go to in St. Louis for the longest time.
Shout out to Schiller's.
And then I guess Creve Coeur Camera, rest in peace. But
Well, Schiller's has defied the odds by surviving because the places we went, there was VMI out at Westport, and there was Communitronics on Kings Highway. Both of them are no more. But those were our two biggest suppliers for. We bought a. Really, I'm just going to blank out on all brand names the rest of the evening, apparently.
Yeah.
But Edit Suite came from VMI. All kinds of odds and ends, and blank tapes when we needed blank tapes came from Communitronics, which moved from being a retailer to being more of an installer at churches and all that. And I don't know of any remnant of them that exists anymore. But those are the toy stores. There's a place called Magic Masters, which is audio down on Jefferson in the city, So yeah, it changes as
Yeah.
you go through the years.
Well,
there was
now
the sound room on.
I do remember the sound room now. Yeah.
Yeah, sound room actually may still be there. I think they moved. They were on Olive, if it's the one. If I'm giving the right name.
Yeah, I think they do more like home theater stuff.
Right.
So going back to your career here, so when you start going out on your own, how old were you guys when you started having your own, like doing your own freelance stuff?
I was in my 20s. It wasn't long after college that I started doing freelance, and I photographed school proms, and I swore off. I said I wouldn't do weddings, and then I took a course to kind of demystify it. And then I started doing weddings, and everything they say about mothers of the bride is true. Sorry, you mothers of the bride in the audience.
Right. Were you developing film then?
Well, yes, they were. I wasn't, but yes.
Okay.
No digital camera. You sent the film to a lab that you trusted, and you prayed. And I feel like I got out of it before the crisis happened, because I stopped doing that before digital photography came in. And it's a little nerve-wracking. It worried me a lot to send those films out and pray that they came back, and then I had the exposures right and everything. And I got out before any crises. Videotaping weddings, I did have one portion of wedding with no audio, so I can sort of relate to your
it wasn't your sister though, was it? So then you don't have to hear about it every Christmas. But
well, you guys know, like, film is kind of making a comeback, like with the hipsters.
First vinyl records and now film.
I saw Polaroid. Polaroid's coming back a little bit. But.
Especially Polaroids, but apparently, like, it's a thing now where, like, people will, like, go and buy those disposable cameras, and they'll, like, use those and actually get the film developed, like, the old school way, as opposed to just having, like, a digital camera.
Well, here's a thought.
Using their phone.
I mean, and I think people have done this. Instead of doing the edit later, I don't, and the aspect ratio is so bizarre at this point, but it would be fun just to go grab a Super 8, grab a VHS or Super VHS, grab some of these old cameras and just do a film on them and just upload it to YouTube and see what happens. Yeah. It would be fun. And because the color's going to be all off, and don't bother to color correct it. Don't do anything. Just make a story, you know? And, you know, that's to anybody who wants to be creative, is don't worry about how high. I know this is so wrong. I'm actually really into quality, okay? But just if you're younger and you're like 10 and you don't have any money, go to the local rummage place. There's cameras everywhere. Go grab it. Go figure out what it runs, you know, the camera. Get the good battery, plug it in, go do a story and upload it.
Right. I go get the media that it records on.
I go garage selling every year, like once or twice a year. I always see a VHS camera or a little digital camera in the garage sale.
Well, that would be interesting, because the thing is, everybody wants, like, the nicest, crispest, like, video, right? So once everybody is reaching up here, then, like, that nice, really high quality video isn't really that unique anymore.
Right.
But whenever you see that old school, like, film developed and turned into, like, a movie or something, then that becomes the new, like, cool thing, right?
Well, while we're talking retro formats, I just read that TAC Tascam is making their own audio cassettes, because there's enough people out there that still want to use the Porta Studio, which is a little cassette mixing board that would record on 4 tracks, and people could do their own band music and bounce the tracks. Before you could build up digital tracks, it was a big deal to be able to, you know, do harmony with yourself and then combine those tracks and then add a second guitar and then combine those tracks.
That's because of the analog, right? Because that's analog sound. I think they still record, some studios still record on the big fat tape. What's that called?
And there's 16 mil. No, I'm sorry.
It's a big rolls of I see them at the recording studios all the time.
Regular reel to reel is quarter-inch, and then an 8-track is on half-inch normally, and it gets wider from there, because it was all about shrinking it, you know, to make it more compact before it all went digital.
Yeah.
So, and people think there's warmth in that sound, and people believe tube amplifiers are still warmer than transistors. You know, sorry, you were going to say, Shane?
I was going to say, I'm going to have to Google later how you capture audio on tape. Like, how does that work?
What do you mean?
Well, isn't it like in a cassette, there's like actual...
It's magnetic.
2 reels.
It's magnetic.
Yeah.
It's magnetizing patterns into the oxide particles on the tape.
So I've done some pretty nerdy stuff at home because I love to transfer audio stuff. So like when it comes to these little cassettes, I've taken these cassettes and bought one of these players, and you can take it and take the audio out of the cassette player into your computer, just like you would with the vinyl. And I've digitized a couple of my cassettes, and I my phone's off, but I have a couple albums on my phone,
Really?
so because I wanted to keep that, and so today you've got this, I got like a 256 gigabyte. I'm sorry. I get those mixed up. 256 gigabytes in my phone. And so I've put like a lot of my library, my CD library, cassette library, and even some vinyl on my phone because I want to listen to it. I want to hear it somewhere. It's portable. So
that's awesome. So I'm gonna pitch the MCA here, so we can cut to that real quick. Boom, boom. Where's it at? There it is.
He didn't ask me about something. I forgot what it was though.
What was it?
What is that?
That's my air. I gotta go turn it off. We're turn that off. We don't want to cut to that. Too late. So, so you got involved with the MCA. Here, we'll cut to it real fast. In 1987, when did you get on board? And I'm gonna go turn
that
the air
was
off when
that was early 2000s because at the time I was getting into extra work. And there's a couple of local people that would go to the MCA meetings, and they would either be doing commercials or film, and then I would be in occasionally some different films or commercials. Yeah, so that's how I started out. And I came back probably 2008 or so because I started getting into video. It's about 2008 to 2010, because I really kind of left video completely and then came back to doing video later on because I was more of a promotional marketing and stuff like that. In between, I had a stint that way with the radio stuff that I was doing. So, was
it a hard transition for you to get from doing radio into video? Because it's
not really, because with audio, if you do audio production, you've got the theater of the mind. They talk about that when you do audio production. You put the sound effects and you kind of create a story out of audio. Well, you've already got the visual in your head, so you just create the script in a video form, and you put your audio down, and then you start writing what the visuals are in your script of what you hear or what you see in your head. And that's really all it is. So no, there's not a lot of hard transitions there. And I think that just goes with any creative. If you've got that visual creative, whether it's laying out an ad on the computer or you're telling a story, it's pretty much the same thing. You just create what's in your head.
Right. What was some of the favorite client videos that you've done? That I know one that I want to talk about. The brown.
No.
You know what?
No, we can. That's fine.
Okay. But what's some of the ones that you can look back on your career and be proud of some of the clients that you've had?
That's a tough one, but I'm going to tell you, I'm really proud of an ad because I was just at Mid Rivers Mall.
Yeah.
And there is a place called Physique. It's a bungee cord fitness place.
What?
And they are playing my video right on that screen as you walk by. And I was really happy to see that because she put that on local cable because she had an agreement with Spectrum to play the commercials. And so I did 30-second commercial for her and two 15-second commercials, which was pretty much my last major project I did when I transitioned to this new company. I started working full time for someone else. So Imagecraft is still available. I'm still available, but I'm not like trying to go out and get clients at this point. So that, and I was doing some work with what used to be called Home Furniture in Collinsville, which is now called Uncle Dave's. Ron Fredman's a great guy. Love the man. He's truly one of those people that's been around for a long time. He was the monkey on Channel 11 when you saw the No Monkey Business commercials. I
can kind of remember the one.
You don't remember that. But that's cool because we talked about Channel 11 a while ago, and I always loved those commercials in such a way because we just had the conversation, about so many weeks ago about humor in video production.
Right.
And that's pretty much what I like to do most of the time in my video production or projects. I like to put humor in some way, some fashion, because I prefer to entertain someone and make them feel good rather than to sell them. And that's what I usually do.
And you have a background with comedy, right? With skit comedy?
Right.
Yeah.
I've written some sketches. I've had my own sketch comedy group for about a year, and then That was in 2019, and COVID happened, so we never reformed. And I did some improv with Howie Hirschfield, which was in 2015, which, again, I met Howie through MCA. So that's the thing is, you go to a meeting and you meet people, and it's not always the same meeting. That meeting in 2015 was all about comedy. Not only did I meet Howie Hirschfield and his group called Not Quite Right, and I joined it later, I also met Ron and Joy. Stevens and Grudnick, by the way. This is a good history lesson. I used to play Dr. Domino back at the college days on vinyl, okay? And I used to play that, and I recognized this track from Dr. Minnow. They played it that night at 2015. They actually performed it live, okay? Stevens and Grudnick is actually a comedy team that is here in St. Louis, but they traveled to Los Angeles, they traveled to New York, and I got a chance to know them, and I met their daughter, Anina, which we were on Not Quite Right together. So it's really cool because when I was growing up, I heard this comedy from Stevens and Grudnick, and I never knew who they were. And then I met them at the MCA meeting. So it was really cool to have that moment.
May I offer a little bit of historical context for our older audience members out there?
From 1979, they had a comedy album.
That is, thank you. Joy Grudnick was known as Joy in the Morning. She was the morning DJ at KC Radio.
Oh, okay.
And Ron was the program director.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they go back to early days at KC Radio.
And Ron hired John Hewlett, by the way.
This, Shane? Did you know who these people were when he was talking?
No, I did not.
What Ron had told me, he said that he at one point in time was right up there on the charts with Cheech and Chong's comedy album. So at one point they were right there, I think neck and neck, or possibly even beating them with their comedy album when they did it 1979. So,
Lou, what's one of your favorite clients' videos that you're proud of?
Well, that was a good question. That got me thinking a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, like James, I can't pick one, but I remember moments where we would have produced a 7-minute feel-good video about a charity, Matthew Zicky's Boy Club, or when the St. Louis Children's Hospital is honoring a particular doctor. To be in the ballroom and to play that on the giant screens on the side of the room to all the people sitting at their tables, that felt good. That was pretty neat, and it looked good. We also did a lot of production for Monsanto, remember them, in St. Louis, and started recording their quarterly reports from the co-chairs of the company, and we felt like we'd climbed in our little company up pretty well when we were handling their quarterly stuff. But then, one more if I may, and that is that we started producing the quarterly motivational videos, shall we say, for the Kirby Vacuum Company, the local chapter of them.
Yeah.
The folks that come knock on your door and sell you a vacuum.
Yeah.
And every 3 or 4 months, they would have a trip as an incentive. They'd go to the Bahamas or a ski resort or just down to the Ozarks or whatever.
You only have to sell 700 vacuums.
That's a lot of vacuums.
That's it. And we would be given free reign to put together these presentations they would play at their rallies. And all we could do was get stills, and sometimes the location might provide some promotional video, but we had to create pretty much everything and give it flash and style and fun and humor and all that. So we got to be producers where we were really creating everything, and I really enjoyed those. We had a good run with that. And lastly, if I may, we just did a couple of special interest videos, neither of which made huge money, but there was a time when producing your own videos and selling them on VHS and then on DVDs, and did one about childproofing a home. Sounds very sexy, but it was a nice production, and it was a good exercise to do. And one on, of course, greyhound racing, because those two go together so well.
Yeah, I can see, yeah.
But, you find yourself in situations where there are experts or people who have special interest or whatever, and you use the resources.
Greyhound like the dogs or Greyhound like the buses?
What was the Sandra Bullock movie? Speed, right?
Right, yeah.
Nope, this was greyhound dog racing, and which has fallen mostly out of favor. And
you were talking about pricing just a second ago. It wasn't my toughest thing is when I talk to a client is knowing the worth and figuring out a price, because it's so hard to like a client will say, well, I just need a video about this, and well, there's a lot of questions like how many locations am I going to, how many people, I mean, what types of setups, so how do you deal with the clients like that when it comes to like pricing out videos?
So there was a time, and yes, this point is probably ancient history, but there got to be a little bit of a standard in the industry that top end production was $2,000 per running minute, or $500 per running minute, or whatever. We ended up creating a framework where how many locations were we shooting, were we hiring a union announcer, we'd try to give them sort of a menu and help define for us what you're looking for. Will we be using professional actors? And then we would basically put together a pitch of A, B, and C. You know, for this price we would do this, because it was very hard to just draw hard lines on what something would cost.
Right.
But if you give them a heart attack price and pray that they take it, 15,000.
You're like, oh, I don't want to show you these other two here. This is there.
But once they anchor on that. There's a thing in sales about anchoring on the first price you hear.
Yeah.
That if you tell them 15,000, but for you, we can do it for 12,000 or whatever. Those things really do work, and it's not dishonest. It helps them make a good decision, and you give them a budget version too. So I was never very good about choosing an aggressive hourly rate or whatever. And they said don't do package pricing. And there were some coaching things that said always price by the hour and hold to your price.
I'm doing everything wrong. Hello.
Siri has joined the conversation apparently.
Hi, Siri. How are you?
This is my phone?
It sure was.
She's got a nice voice.
I didn't even know I had this on my phone. That's interesting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well.
So, the coaching was always set high prices, set firm prices and stick to it. My problem is whether it's I'd like to say it's being a craftsman or an artisan. I really wanted it to look right, so I would do more time than they were necessarily paying for to finish polishing something up, which is either a bad habit or good, depending on which side. But I wanted to be proud of the product. I didn't want to hand someone a piece of garbage, and in the interest of just saving them money. So if I had been a hard-nosed price by the hour, I would have charged them more hours than they wanted to pay for.
I want to make a point on that, and I think that is the thing I continue to tell myself over and over again. You have to have somebody separate doing the creative, somebody separate doing the pricing and doing the sales, because you get caught in that mess where you want to really please that client and you keep doing the perfectionism part where you spend a lot more time on that project and you don't say anything to the client and you keep doing polishing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you realize, ooh, I've spent a lot more time than I really wanted to on this project. And the tough part is that you have to ask yourself this question. And this is something I always ask myself. Do you rough it first and give it to the client and hopefully they love it? Or do you really, really, really polish it and then end up getting aggravated because the client doesn't like it? And then you have to spend even more time of something you've already tried to perfect. That's really rough, especially as somebody who's a creative or a producer or somebody who really wants your work to shine. And somebody says, I don't like it.
I used to send them a rough cut, but see, they don't understand of like, oh no, there's that blank black spot. There's still a B-roll shot that needs to be added right there. They don't get it sometimes, some of the clients. I mean, it just depends on the clients.
When I say rough it, I mean like don't color correct it. Don't try to really make the video so tight,
Right.
Just loosen it up a little.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say that we did a presentation for, I don't think it more than 10 years ago, for MasterCard. And the lady we were working for saw it, and it had all these bullet points. It was sort of almost like a PowerPoint, but it was video. And so we built up all these pages. Yeah. And she looked at it and said, I'm sorry, I don't like the periods after each of those lines. And we had to go back and take out the periods, each of, 8 pages with 5 bullet points on each. Well, each of those was an actual edit because this was pre-digital editing, so it was more than 10 years ago.
Whoa.
So talk about giving them the rough or the whatever before you get them to sign off on things.
Right.
How many nightmare clients you think you've had to deal with, out of percentage-wise? Usually it's maybe 1 out of 10's like a little bit of a problem. I've only had one horrible client my whole entire career, but maybe 1 out of 10 seems like going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass.
I'll jump to that and say I haven't had that many aggressive pain in the ass clients. What I've made the mistake of is taking on consumers who have no idea why it should cost as much as it costs to take. I used to do the family photos and build a nice thing for the couple getting married or whatever.
Right.
And you mean well, but if they're going to pay what the industry needs you to pay, most of them are going to have a heart attack. And so you have to either you get yourself established as someone who's catering to the corporate world, and that's what you do in your company. Or some places have two separate LLCs. One company is the fancy schmancy, pay $500 an hour, hopefully, and the other, the back door is where Aunt Ethel comes in with her cardboard box of stills.
That's probably a good idea, because I always tell him I don't do like pictures of like people or do music videos, because it's much easier for people to pay if it's not their money, right? So when you're working for like MasterCard, well, this guy doesn't give a shit like how much money he's just doing his job, writing you a check.
Put it on the company card.
Right, put it on the company card. I'd
love to get those kind of gigs.
Well, I'd really like to do music videos more, but that's where I run into the money's just not there.
Yeah, it's too much work.
Rising artists.
It's too much prep and post. Yeah, for me, that's why I don't do them. Yeah.
Yeah, rising artists don't have the money to do it right. I wish them luck, and we want to help them get to the point where they get that kind of money.
Right.
But to match their vision for their budget is rough at best. And I think you probably know more about that than we do.
Yeah, I've done quite a few back in the day when I started. I did a lot of music videos and had money from certain dealers that would be paying me for these videos, which those were good. Those were easy, in and out, one day kind of shoots. But
when you say dealers, maybe you want to clarify, or maybe you don't want to clarify.
That's how I was leaving at that. Let the audience use their imagination back in the 2000s. Anyways, you can see some of the videos I did. There's some.
People would see this stuff on MTV when MTV first came out and was music videos,
right?
And they would think, "Can't you do that for me for $200?"
Yeah.
Well, and when I have done music videos, I love doing them because of the fact that I pick 4 or 5 different locations, and you have that artist at that same song with that same song, and just lip syncing at some other location. I watched a Taylor Swift video one day. By the way, I did watch it. 9 different locations I saw. I was amazed by that. Can you believe how much that would cost to do 9 locations, move a whole crew to 9 different locations, the outfit changes and all that stuff.
The lighting was all different too? All the
yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was just amazing. I don't remember which song it was, but that was just the kind of thing I like to do. I like to just get more and more locations, because you don't want to be, if you're doing a music video, you don't want to be bored with somebody on stage the whole time, or somebody's just singing at the camera. I mean, back in grunge days, that was kind of cool. You do black and white, and you would get somebody just yelling at the camera, and that's it. Yeah. But today, you really want to mix it up a bit and tell a story. And that's, by the way, what production's all about. Tell a story. And the other part of it is you mentioned a while ago about pride in your work. That's what production is too. Yeah. You said, I remember seeing it on the screen. It made me feel good. That's why I do production. That's why I did the radio business. That's why I do all creative, because it's like an artist, paints a painting. They see what they do, they sell it, or they give it to somebody they care for. And you go, look, this is what I did for you, or whatever. That's what it's all about. It's about producing whatever it is for someone to enjoy or to buy or whatever. And hopefully you cross your fingers. Maybe someday you hear it 40 years down the line, or you see it 40 years down the line, and you go, there it is. That's what I did like 40 years ago.
Right. Do you ever see stuff that you said you saw the thing in the window, but you see stuff on TV or anything, that's some things you've shot still? I still see a commercial I shot 15 years ago, late night on Channel 11. It'll pop up. It's a lawyer commercial.
Oh,
it's horrible.
Which one?
Wait, let's pull it up.
You said horrible. You can't reveal it now.
It's not Brown and Brown. None of those ones. It's some other guy from, I forgot his name.
Is he still working?
Apparently. He's still using that same commercial.
Well, yeah. I guess it would be weird if he was like out of business, but they're still running ads.
Right.
I mean, you can tell because it's square. I don't even know what I shot an SD, and they're still airing it on Channel 11.
All right, so education part here. Square means 4:3 aspect ratio. Yes. It's a square, and if you put it on a big TV today, it wouldn't even fill the screen.
Yeah.
But if you put it on the screen today and they didn't widen it for you, it'd probably be about that small on your screen, because you got to stretch it, and it's all blurry. I was at Spectrum Charter. I was producing there for 4 years, and we had to transition out of some of those people that still were doing SD commercials. We were still running them, and we basically said
standard def for
Yes,
Pardon me,
standard definition right. So we had to cut that out, and then we were doing HD, which is
high definition. Okay,
High
I'll read the
definition.
captions.
which is rectangle like what you see
and
here.
today his cameras right here say 4K, which means
For
4,000.
but
little
we're
dots.
broadcasting in 1080 though.
oh, I
'Cause
see.
It's going through HDMI.
But they're 4K cameras, quality. And then there's 8K and 12K and everything else coming out. So
Those are just stickers.
I don't even
James.
know where I was
just-
going with this.
I
Where-
just put 4K stickers on there on that camera. No,
Oh, something about the square?
I got
like the
side-
aspect
the
ratio.
Yeah, the
square
aspect-
beyond compare.
the aspect ratio.
I'll take a free pizza,
Well,
please.
what aspect ratio are you supposed to shoot at with video? Like 16 by 9 or 1 by 1?
It's 16 by 9's the aspect.
16 by 9, but guess what? If you shoot like Snapchat and stuff like that, I think that might be 9 by 16. It's just reverse.
really?
Same with Instagram, and then what's the other one? There's a 1 by 1 ratio. I think that
TikTok?
might be Twitter. I don't know about TikTok because I haven't really gotten into that, but that's part of my company. Is I was really just shooting video for companies who would want to advertise online. So that was part of my niche when I was doing image craft. So
And that's because people hold their phones like this. They
Yes.
want to hold their phones
Yes.
like this, like they should. Since that's what relates to how our vision works. That's
Right.
why movie screens are
Vision
wide.
Vision Craft right here. So this is James'
Oh,
site.
hello. There's my
there we
site.
go. There we go. So if you guys can check it out, I'll put the link here at the video below. But
and then there's a link in there somewhere that says something about portfolio, which brings up portfolio.
Okay.
And the portfolio part, you mentioned lawyers. Yes, I did about 9 or 10 of the Brown and Brown videos.
yes. So
When-
did you do the whole half hour thing when they're talking by the highway the whole time?
Well,
Is that
you know,
is that-
I'll tell you what. There's Ed Brown, who's no longer with us, and
Yes.
there's Dan Brown.
Right.
Ed was with the eye patch. He passed October. Was it last year?
Last year, I don't want to talk about, it, but yeah,
Well,
yeah,
it's fine,
yeah,
but I don't need to talk about what it was.
yeah.
But Dan was primarily the one that wanted to get these videos because they shot these years ago on Charter. And I actually was looking through some of the videos before I got into producing them. But Dan really did most of the work. I just had to go and be the supervisor and make sure nobody got hurt.
Oh, okay.
But it was funny because if you watch the Brown and Brown videos, you'll see stuff like, for instance, a car will pass right in front of them as they're talking. And I would be like out in the field, go, let's go ahead and redo that. And Dan would be like, nah, we're good. So it's that YouTube style of video that they did. They wanted to make it random. They wanted to make it look like
raw, kind of.
raw, yeah. And so things would happen on the camera. Like, for instance, they'd be in the middle of talking, and I think we were outside of Powell Hall at one time, and somebody drove by and honks their horn and go, hey, you know. And then outside the zoo, I think they did the same thing. So I think we captured some of that. So
were they paying by the hour? So that's why they're like, no, we're good. We're just we don't want to. Is that,
yeah, they were paying by the hour.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
sure.
What it had to do with that.
If I may, one more example of adding historical context here in St. Louis for your older viewers.
Yes.
Both of them.
It's probably just my mom and dad. But
Okay.
yes, go ahead.
Well, Mom and Dad, you'll remember the Steve Mizrarini
Oh,
commercials. The Decent Boys. They were an appliance shop in South City. And Steve Mizrarini would do these commercials where he'd be on roller skates and he couldn't skate, allegedly.
Yes.
And do all kinds of goofy stuff. They always took the first take because they wanted to stand out. And people always remembered their commercials.
Yeah.
You know, if this has been, hello, we sell the finest dishwashers in St. Louis. Please come see us. It wouldn't stick with anybody. But everybody remembered his commercials. And he sold a lot of appliances because he was willing to look goofy on screen, but it was always take the first take. So when your guys want to take a random thing that makes it less polished, they may be smart.
I still remember. Oh, sorry.
Was that a St. Louis thing to make those cheesy ass commercials, or was that every market? Because you had the lady on the carpet, you had the Schweid Ingles,
Ugh.
you had
Those are the St. Louis versions, but,
you had-
and none of those are national. But yes, every city had and still do.
that was
Right.
the kind of the gimmick. Okay, go ahead. I'm just wondering back in the day. What are you saying?
I don't know where I was going with that.
Oh, damn it. Well, I had.
Kind of forgot.
Oh, well, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just kind of wondering.
Oh,
like,
I know what I was thinking.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking about home furniture that was still open at the time, and then they transitioned to Uncle Dave's, where I became, he became my client. But what happened, I still remember to this day. I couldn't figure out why in the world are are we bringing a ham? And it was weird because he had some kind of giveaway, a ham giveaway if you bought some furniture. So like the monkey was like running around with ham on the camera. I didn't quite understand. It's just a big old thing like a football running across the screen.
Was it an actual monkey?
It was no. It was in a costume.
Oh, bummer.
Oh,
Spoiler.
Yeah.
have you guys had to work with kids or animals? What's worse?
I hate kids.
We let the record reflect that came from
reflect
that
that
side of the
Shane-
table.
Complaints go to Shane Foster at Gmail. Yes, no.
That's a tough one.
I don't like working with kids, but
I think kids are easier. Animals are very hard because very first set of commercials I did when I was at Spectrum Charter. I keep saying both because they're the same place. Is I started working there in 2014, and I did a set of 4 or 5 commercials for Michael's Flooring in St. Louis, and I created this whole idea that the prices are so low. You'll try to figure out what time it was or something like that. And basically it was a black and white commercial, 1950s style. And I did a little research online. I tried to figure out what does the hokey commercials look like back in the 1950s. And it was something about your modern kitchen and all this stuff. And the guy that I hired to do the voiceovers actually sounded like that. And in my head, I thought Don Pardo of Saturday Night Live at the time. So he was like, Michael's Flooring, had that great voice.
Yeah.
And so it was just this whole black and white set of commercials. But guess what? I ended up doing both. I ended up having a shot with a dog in the commercial. I also had a shot of there was a baby there, and there was also the account executive's son that was in the commercial too. So I not only had a number of commercials to do in a very short time at the same location, but I had kids and animals. So,
oh wow,
very first set of commercials out the gate. And by the way, I did what is it called? A telly. I won a telly for one of those.
Oh wow, okay.
Right on.
Just for putting up with
the
all.
kids, right?
Just for spending the money.
you-
No,
I
I'm
was
kidding.
just thinking before. I'm just thinking you could get a Don Pardo type to say the Daily Dirt with Dustin Diggs.
Yeah, you should do
I
that.
should get somebody.
Dirt with Dustin Diggs.
Big announcement today. We're going to be airing in Pittsburgh and all. We have a Roku going out to a Roku station out there.
I
Roku.
love the
Is it
Pittsburgh
Roku or
Steelers, and I'm a
Roku?
big fan.
I don't know.
I thought it was Roku.
Roku, whatever. I don't
Hello,
know.
Pittsburgh.
I better learn that stuff.
Hello,
soon.
KDKA
Hey, everybody.
Pittsburgh.
It's not this episode, folks. It's
Live from Three Rivers Stadium.
Shout out to everybody. in
Wait.
Pittsburgh.
3 Rivers? Come on now. It's Heinz Field.
Yes.
Shane, do you like indoor or outdoor shooting? I'm an indoor guy. I don't like to shoot outside.
I really enjoy shooting outside, assuming the weather's nice.
Yes.
Now,
If-
excuse
if-
me, is this the still photographer speaking or the videographer
This is
speaking?
the still photographer.
Thank you.
I would say both.
Videographer, I have no idea.
No, outside always because the lighting. The
Yeah.
lighting, you don't have to deal so much with the lighting. I absolutely do not like dealing with lighting because I hate looking at shadows, trying to figure out how to, get rid of this, there's no way. There's no way. You have to wear something dark.
Well, personally, I really like
Wait,
natural
here.
lighting.
Can we do this on here? Does it work?
No, I don't-
Oh,
Does
I
it
got
work?
actually a microphone shadow on my.
Yeah, it's a microphone
There you
show.
go.
So
Yeah, I like natural. Like I think it looks really cool, both in still photography and video, like in
mean,
movies and stuff. when
Fluffy
you-
clouds. Fluffy clouds are amazing. When
Yeah.
you can get that look, that partly cloudy look.
Yeah, just a little overcast.
We would love to do that. Like when we shoot car commercials, like, oh, fluffy clouds, waving flag. Oh, yeah.
yeah, but if you do like a talking head outside and the clouds and the lighting keeps changing, the sun keeps you got to keep
That's-
messing with
yes.
messing with your aperture and stuff.
Yes, that's very true.
Like, that's the
Although-
worst. I hate that.
But it adds visual interest.
Yep.
The face get blurred out, like yeah, maybe for my face, yes.
Well, it's why they do a walk and talk instead of just a person standing in front of
Yeah.
a building.
Right.
If you can track
Oh.
it and have someone moving, and look at any video, look at any YouTube, anything at this point. They have any of the, I'm blanking out on some of the podcasts or whatever, where they'll just have the camera on a track going back and
Yep.
forth, which seems silly. But
Right.
today's audience wants motion, wants visual interest, and so on. And so that's the game, is to create that visual interest without it being a distraction.
Wow, that's a good tip right there. Do you have any other good tips for the audience out here that that you learned in the many
Well, Mr.
years?
and Mrs. America. Well, I think that And I'm aging out of this business because I still believe in a nice fixed shot that can go on for a couple minutes. That doesn't exist anymore, you know, and it's whether it's because of people growing up on Sesame Street or whatever, things that learn to cut. And you look at movies now, it's an exception when someone has a nice long 3-minute tracking shot in a movie. They get an award for it. That used to be standard. It used to be, you know, Rope, the old Alfred Hitchcock movie, Jimmy Stewart, 1940s, was made. It looks like it's one continuous cut. There's actually, they didn't have film that long, so they hid 2 cuts, but it's 3 total takes that assemble that whole, I don't know, 90-minute or whatever it is movie.
Yeah.
And
Which is Birdman tried to recreate that a little
exactly.
bit. Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate that in film when instead of like just cutting back and forth a whole bunch, you just have one wide angle set in the scene and you just capture the action going on. Sometimes I get annoyed, like when I'm watching a scene take place and it's just like jumping back and forth, where like it would be way better, I think, in my opinion, in some cases, to just have one camera and just have all the action play out on screen.
The proverbial establishing shot, you know, and usually in movies they still will shoot it that way, and then they'll do the cuts.
Yeah,
right.
Piece it all together.
Do you guys watch movies and kind of pick out those continuity errors and stuff, or you?
Yes.
Well, James over there with his shadow, he's like, yeah.
Yeah. Clocks. The clocks. I always see the clocks moving around.
My father was an advertising man, and he would notice things, and I learned early to notice things. And know, did you see that? Which is terrible for if you're at a movie with a friend or a date or your
right.
And you cannot not comment on how.
I know. I've done that too many times.
Yeah, so I'm sort of ruined for appreciating a movie, for getting lost in the movie, but I also think I'm picking up on things to appreciate in the movie. So I think it nets out. But yes, I'm always spotting production flaws and things that they did wrong or could have done better.
I remember a Brooklyn Nine-Nine where I don't remember which character it was, but they had a necklace, and I kept watching the necklace move during the shots. It's like all over the place. I'm like, what's going on?
Like people smoking cigarettes. That's hard to like keep that too, especially if they do more than one take.
That's the thing that sucks about learning about movies and the production and everything, is like you start to watch it with that in mind. Like you don't actually just watch the movie. You start to like notice the different cuts and the angles and all that.
The best
stuff.
part is when you watch a sitcom and you realize there's 5 different camera shots, and you're all over in that angle, and you're seeing the shot that should have been from that direction but wasn't in that direction at that moment. So they shot the same scene several times so they could put the extra cameras in there and move people in those areas where those cameras were.
Did they use 5? I thought they used 3 on sitcoms. They used 5 cameras on sitcoms?
I'm trying to remember what it was. It might have been Goldberg's again. I'm going to promote Goldberg's today. But I remember like there should have been a camera where that person was standing because I saw the angle, and that's not there.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
The other thing that I've noticed too as a production person is when you're watching a conversation between 2 people and they do the over the shoulder shot. Over the shoulder is basically where they got the camera back here and you see the shoulder and you see their mouth talking a little bit.
Oh wait, you might be able to.
Yeah. There you go.
There, right
over,
there.
yes.
Over Shane's shoulder.
You know what?
There's an over the shoulder. Thank you.
I think we need to make these cameras maybe over here. That looks like a nice
so
shot.
Hang on. Don't move. So
that's a nice shot.
It's for instance, if you're talking to us and then we're listening to the audio, but we're seeing the lips move a little bit different. And that's what I see a lot more now in these sitcoms, because they don't keep doing all these extra takes, and they say, you see the person's mouth moving wrong. And that's the one thing I see the most, that over the shoulder shot.
I see it on CBS Sunday Morning, which is a very high quality production, but they chop up their interviews a lot. And they'll do the over the shoulder to show their brilliant interviewer paying attention and nodding.
Right.
And clearly the person is not, if you pay attention, they're not saying, the interviewee is not saying what you're hearing.
Right.
You can just tell by how they're moving or whatever.
I can't stand when like a documentary or a news story and the reporters, and they do the shot where the reporter's not saying anything. He's just like this. Like he's so vain, he had to cut himself in like this nice like clip,
Yes.
Often they're hiding an edit.
Right, that's what's going on, right? So.
Oh, and I was going to say, you said if there's anything that's still out there. I don't know if it's something I did, but it was when I was on camera back at Western, somebody uploaded a couple of our old sketch shows, because we did a sketch show back when I was at Western in the early 90s. And so now it's on YouTube, a couple of clips of that. So I grabbed it and I saved it to my playlists or whatever on my YouTube channel, because I wanted to see it. And it's still there. It's cool. It was shot on 3/4 inch.
Wow. All right, believe it or not, we talked for an hour.
Wow.
So I just want to do some
to our
shout outs.
viewers, it probably seems like 2 hours.
Right. We're really supposed to pitch the MCA. So talk about, to be a member of the MCA. I hope to be a member, and we go to the free events, and we host you guys a couple times at Soulful Illusion Studios, and then I think we host you at Streetscape Studios as well.
We have not initiated you yet.
Now,
that's the next part of it.
Is that like Freemasonry, where you're gonna blindfold me? And
Well, there's a little surgical procedure, but
Jesus. Okay.
I thought we were going to throw them in a car and then throw them out of the car with some bricks.
But we'll cut to the MCA thing here. So just talk about like if somebody's interested. I mean, if it's anything to do with film, audio. I mean, there's everybody's in it.
The easiest place to connect with us, for starters, that I know of, is either the Facebook page or at meetup.com, because we post every meeting on Meetup, and so you'll know where to come and where to be. At the meetings is the easiest way to get onto our email list, because we'll put out the word there, and we have a mailing list of, I don't know, 400 or 500 production professionals and production wannabes here in town.
That's me.
Production wannabe. Me over here
but
too. Yeah,
we are a great place to connect and to network and to learn more about what's going on production-wise in the city. That's why it was so great for you to host, because you're kind of doing the same thing. You're your own little community of production-oriented people who are breaking in, or people who already have the skill set, but that would benefit from meeting others in the business, or others in the business might benefit from knowing, well, here's this talent pool. So this is a pitch to you and to Artists United that you're helping to support the production business. That's what we're trying to do.
Right.
And what we do is obviously, there's this little disease, none of you probably has heard about it, but that's really kind of messed up our schedule the past couple of years.
Right.
But
what's that called?
Historically, I can't think of the name of it. It's some Greek letter at this point,
right,
until we run out of Greek letters.
Right.
But
we'll start naming them after hurricanes.
Right. That'd be cool.
So, in theory, I think we name it after bands or something.
Watch out! Here comes Sandy.
Here comes Nirvana.
Oh, that would be I'd be scared of that variant. Yeah, there we go.
So what we've tried to do is we try to meet monthly. Again, it's been a little rocky the past year and a half or so, but we aim for the second Tuesday of the month.
Okay.
And every month we try to be at a different and interesting location. Thank you. You have been that. And it was great and generous of you to host us a couple of times in a couple of events. And we try to choose a topic that'll be of interest to some segment of the production community. We'll do a meeting on lighting. We'll do a meeting on working with talent. We'll do a meeting on injecting humor, brightening up your productions using humor. We will do Ask the Attorneys. We'll do, Ask the Entertainment Lawyers.
We did one on podcasting.
We have done more than one, probably, on
Several?
Podcasting, but now I know who we need to have on the next panel.
I don't know.
And we're interested in knowing what people want to hear about and what they want to benefit from. And we're also interested in finding new locations. People love to see production facilities. I do. It's been years.
I love it too.
We've been to Channel 9, we've been to Channel 4, but it's harder to get into those kind of spaces now, not just because of COVID, but just because of lawyers and insurance and things like that.
Yeah,
correct.
And there are less of the giant production houses that have multiple studios, but we've been to most of them through the years in town, and people love that. And again, the full-time professionals who work there are there that evening. Sometimes they'll present, they'll be part of the panel or whatever. We've gone out to place near Westport, the local production house, HEC TV. They've hosted us periodically, and
I have one thing I've done with HEC TV,
and they've got a lot going on there, and their building has an auditorium, so they've been generous at hosting us a couple of times.
Wow.
So, and we've done shows on awards programs and how to succeed, getting local Emmys or whatever, people who are winners and what worked for them. So there's all kinds of topics we could cover, and we have our decadent holiday party. There's even
amazing party.
There's even bad photographic evidence that you were at the last one.
I was having too much fun. By the way.
Meetup.com. There's a a surveillance image of you there.
Oh boy.
Oh, what?
So you were still standing.
Oh, good. Oh,
Okay.
good. Thank God.
So we try to be that kind of organization. Again, networking, making connections, and also helping people add the skills they need to work in this business. So, but again, I think Meetup and I'm sorry, Facebook, part of Metaverse.
Sometimes LinkedIn.
And thank you.
Yeah, the meetings are fun, and what's great too is a core group of you guys. We all go out to dinner after the meetings too, and that's when you really get to really have some. Good
And it's
conversations.
non-sponsored.
The afterglow.
Non-sponsored, yes.
Non-sponsored, not endorsed by MCA.
Right. But those are when you have the really fun conversations.
Yes.
And you can talk about some things. And
Yeah, especially those that are in the industry. You've had a conversation with them when they're on this stage or whatever in front of everybody talking, and then you get a chance to talk to them afterward. Sometimes there are people that will go to those after conversations, and you get a lot more detail, a lot more insight on what they do and how they got there.
right. Awesome. Well, Shane, you have. Sorry,
This is Jamie, and you're DD.
I don't have much to add, actually. Nope.
Okay.
You don't want to cut to a commercial?
This is called dead air in radio.
Okay,
Dead
I
air.
will say one thing. There was one little tidbit thing that I wanted to get in there while we were talking about natural lighting. I didn't get to talk about it, but there's a guy named Wally Pfister. He's a cinematographer. Mm-hmm. He works on a lot of the Christopher Nolan movies, and I really like his work with natural light and incorporating natural light into films. So, if you want to check out some cool stuff, check out his work. On movies like The Prestige, Insomnia, and stuff like that.
Sometimes lack of lighting too.
Yeah,
is actually good.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are new to production, you may not know the term golden hour, and that's one of the great things about shooting outside. Either at dawn, but better at dusk. There's a certain tone to the light. Yeah, I lean to that, but
okay.
It's also easier to get people there.
Yeah.
But that is when the light is the warmest. It works better on skin tones. And it's a great moment, but it is fleeting. The sun does continue moving, at least so far in our world.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that you learn in the business that can be useful and can give. And when you say you like photographing outdoors, I suspect that you're very aware of the time of day and the quality of the light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, trying to schedule some photo shoots during golden hour can be super hectic because you're messing with the lighting and everything. You're like, oh my gosh, we only have 15 minutes till we're out of light. So it's hectic, but it's also very fun and challenging in a good way.
So and I know you're wrapping up, but I'm gonna,
we're good. I mean,
I want to bring back one point.
We're gonna go for another hour.
Which we talked about being ruined, about going to movies and seeing all the production flaws and so on. But there's an analogy that works for me, and that is that I think an artist can look at a painting by Van Gogh and see technique and things there that really make them appreciate it more. And I'd like to think that's part of what's going on with us. Others who are not so attuned to it might be better at sensing the feel that he's achieved, or that any artist has. So I think there's a give and take. But as you learn more about this business and how to do things and how to get good audio, and I notice lousy audio more often than I notice image.
Especially when it comes to some of the local films here in St. Louis, it's sometimes it'd be a beautiful image, but the audio is just piss poor. So
I executive produced a movie that was shot here longer ago than I can believe, probably 10 years ago now, called Ghost Image.
Oh, you were part of that?
Oh,
wow.
I was proud to get involved in that.
Yeah.
And talking about audio, one of the toughest scenes was on the rooftop of the building that we shot in downtown. We were doing a scout, and I was one of the first to notice when we were scouting the locations. I said, look at all the air conditioning units on this rooftop. And sure enough, and it's a beautiful scene. They shot it at night, and it looked great. But
they re-looped it. They had to re-loop it.
They didn't end up. They just filtered the heck out of it. And happily, the air conditioners, and we were shooting in the summer, and you couldn't get all the residents of this building to turn off their air conditioning. So they went for the frequencies and they filtered the heck out of it. And they salvaged it. I didn't think they'd be able to. But boy, getting the microphones in there close enough to cut down on that proportion of the background noise, that's part of the art of audio.
Wow.
The girl from Clueless, Stacey Dash, was in that film.
She was.
Yeah, and some other names are in that film.
There was an actress named Roma Mafia who was known from ER. She was an actress. And am I really going to... Jennifer, the lead, was played by... I can't think of her name. She was the biggest name at the time. And
big, yeah.
and she's on a poster in my office. And Jack Snyder,
in your office,
the director, is out there slapping his forehead because I know he's watching.
Yeah.
And the producer, the overall producer, was Shrikant Shalapa, who has since opened a production studio in Maplewood. The former Smith Lee is now Kalinga Productions.
Oh, really?
And that is his baby there.
Oh, wow.
So,
they also did the Bad Grandmas, right? That was another big one that they worked on. Did you help out with that film?
No, I wish I'd been involved. But I wasn't. It didn't time out right, and that was a neat one.
But he's at the MCA. I saw him at the meeting.
Daniel.
I can't think of his last name. Starts with a B.
Byington.
Dan Byington.
Yeah, that's it.
Who also tends to have bit parts in the movies. He had a small speaking part in Ghost Image and was also one of the producers. The associate producer.
You seem like you do some acting. Do you do acting?
I have the ham in me. I did acting when I was younger, and I'm hoping when life slows down again, I would love to do that. And I worked at a radio station during college too, so that helped bring that out.
We write skits all the time, so Lou, we're sketches. So what's the difference between skits and sketches?
That's a good question.
It's a good question. Sketch comedy is what I always say. Skits is...
No, there's actually...
A skit sounds a little more impromptu to me. A sketch sounds a little more polished.
Maybe that's the good way of putting it. Skit is more of an improvisational sketch that you just kind of work through it.
No, there's actually a definite...
I don't know.
It's no, because I got crucified about it at the thing.
Crucified?
They were all like, no, it's not skits, it's sketches. And so like I was like, this is a skit show or something.
I presume a sketch is more likely to be scripted, but that is my belief.
So you wouldn't say we wrote a...
Careful, you're away from your microphone.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, just type it in. We'll find it. And get the mic to your face.
Ask the Google.
He gets upset when I touch the microphone too much. So
because he
do not touch
it goes
the
like
microphone.
this, and when he's talking,
stop playing with the microphone.
Yeah, don't play when somebody else is talking, but you could do it when we'd have that dead air. You can play with it all you want.
Yeah.
So just some shout outs. So you're kind of retiring. So you know,
I'm moving towards it. No, I'm moving towards it. And,
right.
And looking to slow down and have a little more fun.
I just didn't know if you wanted to pitch your production company.
My production entity has gotten slower, and that is Silver Streak Studios. And to the point right now, no, we don't even have a website. But I started doing litigation video production, and that started filling in the blanks during the slow times in production. And now I do more litigation. I'm a certified legal videographer and videotape depositions, and I don't, but I could go into courtrooms, new presentations there. And it doesn't allow much room for the fun stuff, but it is interesting work. And again, you can still put pride into it and get good audio in a deposition. You're shooting for a jury. You're imagining how is the jury best going to see this witness. And you don't want to, again, in production, if it's some poor little old lady, you could put the camera up high and make her look really... Well, you're not supposed to do that. Right. And if it's an evil corporation, you put the camera low and make them look all mean.
Right.
You're not supposed to do that. Exactly.
Right.
But it's fun to know these kind of things. So I think you have found something on the computer.
Yes. I did. All right, so here's, according to Google, here's the difference between a skit and a sketch. Comedians basically differentiate a skit from a sketch by saying that a skit is like one dramatized joke, like a bit. It's just one simple, quick little thing. And a sketch, a sketch is like way more,
long form, character or situation. So
so it's way more like thought out. A sketch is more thought out. A skit,
that makes sense.
It's just a simple, quick little.
Well, it'd be like a bit, like you could do a little stand-up thing, a little routine, and that's a skit,
I would venture to say that Saturday Night Live is sketch comedy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's long form. It's what it sounds like to me.
I just feel like it's a grammar thing. Like you wouldn't say I wrote a skit. You'd say I wrote a sketch. Or you wouldn't say like I'm a skit comedian. That would sound funny.
James would charge you more for a sketch than he would for a skit.
Yes. I would.
All right, I want to go back to the MCA thing because I forgot we need to call out the board because it doesn't.
Thank you.
Guys. There's board members. Mike Ketcher. Let's just talk about the board of MCA.
Mike Ketcher, who is Mr. Networker. Basically, if you're watching this, you probably know him. And unfortunately, he's a little under the weather. No, not that way. He's got a little laryngitis going, which doesn't lend itself very well to a podcast. But he is our current president. And he happily keeps forgetting to step backwards when we ask for the volunteer president for the upcoming year. He's been a faithful supporter and a real achiever for the organization for years.
Yeah.
And
that's how I found out about it. Yeah.
We're glad to have him. Yeah. So If you are working in the production business, you want to know him. You want him to know you. He has worked location services. He's on camera, and he has worked in production in all kinds of aspects of it, and continues to.
And he's been a talent too. What was that thing with Jesse James he just did?
Yeah, he's a great actor. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. And then Susan Hunt Bradford is, among other things, a faculty member at the Community College District, primarily at Merrimack. But she's been involved in various aspects of production, and she's been a faithful board member. She is threatening to retire. I don't know exactly her official status, and I'm sure, Merrimack, if you're listening, I'm sure if you gave her more money, she would stay.
I think so.
Sue, you owe me. But she's great, and the four of us right now are the hub of it. It takes a lot of people to put it together,
right.
And I'm insulting some people by not mentioning them probably, but right now that's the current nucleus of the board. Matt doesn't know it, but he's going to be on the board of MCA
he is?
eventually. Yeah,
I would definitely help you guys with whatever you need.
I've been on the board since 2017, I think.
And you are another consummate networker. You have made lots of connections and helped us.
Of course.
Me and James have partied before. We've hung out. Yeah, we've hung out. Yes.
All right.
You just have to pass initiation, of course.
Yes,
right?
Yes, initiation. Instead of a goldfish, I think we're going to replace it with a piranha.
I'm going to have Shane go through the gauntlet first, and then I will see how
you got to swallow the piranha, and you can be a board member.
No, I'll definitely be proud to be a board member, and I think what the MCA is great, and definitely with 30 years it's been around, we need to keep it going for another 30 years, and so if it takes us carrying the torch or whatever to the next generation, we'll do it. So.
Thank you for that. And I should clarify, at this point, you do not need to pay an annual fee. We do charge for a small fee most of the monthly meetings to help, forestall our expenses. We don't make money in this organization.
Yeah, it's for food.
And we do, we provide food and beverages, and sometimes we have to rent chairs and do things like that, and we try to pay for the holiday party. So you can come to a meeting, give us a try.
Yes. And the next one's going to be in 2 weeks? 3 weeks, maybe?
No, I think the next meeting is February. I don't know the date off the top of my head, and we're still making sure that we get the location confirmed. So, sorry, I have to tease it a little bit, but watch the websites, watchmeetup.com.
Okay. Well,
we
thank
will
you
happily
guys.
keep you informed. It's actually going to be at Matt's living room, I think.
Gotcha. Girlfriend gets mad that this is down here in the basement, so I don't know how that's going to go. But had a great time with you guys. I knew it would be a great podcast.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
By the way, there's something that you just mentioned. I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is in the basement, by the way. Look at this studio. This is amazing.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to turn these cameras around.
But seriously,
no, that's the studio. That's the studio
This is-
audience. They've not signed releases. We can't
this
put
is
them
one
on camera.
of the most
Exactly.
impressive studios I've seen. A podcast, by the way. I mean, it
looks gorgeous.
but it's a nice studio in a basement. I can't believe all this is back here.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, well, it wasn't like that at the beginning. We started a year ago from yesterday.
Yep.
And
it was
400
400 shows, right?
400. I'll hit the 400 by the end of this year, yeah.
Wow.
And this week, yeah. 400 shows.
Busy.
So,
That's dedication.
So
Do you have sponsors? Are you mentioning sponsors here?
I got a little sponsors.
I'm going to get you some
role.
sponsors if you.
Well, I would love you to
need
do that, James.
sponsors.
You'd be up on my list if you did that.
Oh, thank you.
So, all right. Well, thank you guys. Definitely subscribe to the Daily Dirt with Dustin Diggs on YouTube. Like the Arch Night Network on Facebook, and we will see you again tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.